Hello and welcome to Sim.bc, where it right now is 13 past 1 in the morning. Yes, in that AM. And today is going to be a really controversial video. It feels like I'm starting a lot of my videos with that at the moment, but this one is going to be particularly controversial because there's going to be in the nude. No, it's not actually going to be, but there's going to be some skin showing, yeah? And that is because we're gonna talk about body shapes, yeah? And this is one of those ideas I had very early in the morning, like 5 minutes ago. So bear with me if you believe that this is really weird, because I to some extent do too. And yes, I've been thinking this through, because this is a video that is going to be uploaded online, a video that can be circulating when I'm applying for a job. So I truly believe that the message I'm trying to send and get across is going to be worth it, right? It's going to be worth the embarrassment and to some extent the really weird interactions that's going to happen in just a few moments, right? I'm probably building it up way too much. Anyway, mates, without any further ado, what I would like to talk about today, as I said, is weird body shapes. And in order to really prove my point that I'm going to try to make, I'm going to do it with other shirts. So yes, we're doing it like this. Pow! I know, I'm looking like a whale on the sand, just so pale. I know, it's crazy. And as I said, I'm not fully in the nude. I have some shorts on. I'm not that weird. I'm just borderline crazy and all of that. Because I'm currently working with someone who is studying to become a teacher. A well-worth job, apparently a really well-paid job as well, based on what he was, progressing when he was talking about. But unfortunately there has been a huge problem in current curriculum when it comes to studying to become a teacher, yeah? And one of those things is that as it gets more and more common with mobile phones and with smartphones overall, right? And that you can go online, you can easily share information, you can take pictures, you can upload them to the cloud, whatever, so you can delete them on your phone, but they're not really deleted. This makes people together, I would say, together with the integrated media experience that is provided, the social media platforms that are provided with the smartphone these days to younger kids, is creating this problem that people are feeling really ashamed of how they look like, People are seeing these different shapes and different bodies, and they're thinking like, oh, that's how I'm supposed to look like, and then they're seeing something else and they're like, oh, that's how I'm not supposed to look like. And that makes perfect sense. I mean, I bloody hate it, right? I think that we all come in different shapes and sizes, and if you do not like your shape and size, there's often a lot of things that you can do about it. If you think you're too thin, well, eat a bit more. If you think you're too hairy, well, then shave. If you think that you don't have enough hair, well, stop shaving and let it grow, right? I mean, there's so many things that you should be comfortable with in this world, and one of those things is definitely your body, right? I mean, if there's anything that you should be comfortable with, it's who you are. That's just healthy. It's just a healthy mentality to be feeling like, you know what, this is me and I'm really happy about it, right? It's not about having the perfect lighting, and that's why I'm having a lighting that's straight on me, so there's not, very favorable shadows coming from above, because I could do that, but that's not the point of this video, right? The point of this video is taking up that there is a lot of people, especially kids in our society today, that feels like smartphones and the integration of social media is actually hurting them in the long run. And why? Well, because of this very reason. They don't want to go to PE anymore. They don't want to work out at school anymore because they're afraid to take a shower, because people can take pictures of them and upload them online. And I'm not really sure what he was trying to convey, because it was conveying 2 points. Like, one, obviously, no one want to be portrayed naked. It makes sense, even though I'm standing here and doing so. As I said, still shorts. I'm not a lunatic, yeah? But people are afraid, or kids are afraid of getting taken, of having their picture taken when they're, when they're in the shower, as bullying or just a quote-unquote practical prank or whatever. It's horrible that this is even a thing that is going on, that this is even a concern of kids these days, right? That this is even something to be even thinking about. I mean, I can't even relate to the problem because it wasn't a problem when I went to school, just 10 years back, when I was in middle school or when I was in, junior high even. it wasn't that much of a deal. But people are unfortunately really afraid of being pictured, well, in the nude, so to say, which makes them don't want to, they don't want to take a shower, and then they don't want to be on the, workout and the PE because they don't want to, because they know that they won't take a shower afterwards, and it's just horrible. And the second problem with that is that they're really afraid of taking off their clothes. And that sounds really strange out of context from a man with no shirt. I get that. Now, when I'm saying there's a problem that they don't want to take off their clothes, it's not necessarily that they don't want to take off their clothes. It's that they don't want to show off their body and what they look like to other, to their peers, so to say, to other kids in the environment. Which I guess has always been a problem. There are some people that feel like, wow, I look a bit different than everybody else in that area, in that region. I'm perhaps a bit taller, I'm perhaps a bit shorter, I'm perhaps a bit bigger, I'm not fully developed, I'm perhaps a bit smaller, I'm not, all of these things that can come into consideration, all of these parameters. And as I said, that has always been a problem, right? But these days it seems to be a greater problem than it has ever been before. Based on that, I'm talking to some of my mates that are studying to becoming teachers, which is, by the way, 2 thumbs fresh, because it's an occupation that should be having more smart people gravitating towards it, right? But unfortunately, lots of smart people feel like they'd rather become engineers or theoretical physicists or whatever or whatnot, right? Which is a bit unfortunate. But 2 thumbs fresh for you guys who are actually moving into the teaching occupation. I love it. I should do it too. Really, I mean, I really like to stand in front of people and being, and talking to them and feeling like I'm the center of attention and actually having an impact on their life, and an immediate impact and a long-lasting impact as well, which is good. So 2 thumbs fresh, as I said, for all of you who are out there and studying to become teachers is really, really good. I probably can't stress that enough. And it's so unfortunate that you should need to deal with this problem during your studies. That this is a problem to begin with, that this is a problem that you should need to own up to as a teacher, and being able to be mentally prepared to support a kid going through a traumatizing experience based on this kind of thing. I mean, it's ludicrous to me that it should be a thing to begin with, right? But I also understand it, and we need to open our eyes for that it is a problem in order to actually, make a change. Now, as I said, this has been a problem all throughout time. I mean, I even remember back in my day, when you were developing as a teenager or whatever, and you felt like, oh, I don't really look like everybody else. Oh, I don't really look like everybody else. It's kind of a problem, right? And you kind of feel that way. However, the distinct difference, apparently, that it seems to be between, 10 or 20 years ago and now, and, well, the last 5 years, I guess, is that with these integrated smartphones, kids are getting access to a lot of social media and a lot of marketing in so much more of a greater extent than there has ever been. And that means that they're getting introduced to these crazy body shapes, right? I mean, there are certain celebrities that are famous mainly because of some features of their bodies, bodybuilders to name one of them, right? Mainly because of how they look like, and it's in other industries as well. And then these kids are getting to see these, and perhaps they already look up to the person. Maybe it's a musician, so they look up to this musician, and then they see how they look, and they want to look the same. And as I said, that's probably always been something that has been in society. You're looking up to someone, you see them for real, or in a picture, and you're thinking, oh, I want to look like that. But now kids are getting bombarded with it wherever they go. And it's been such a problem, it's such an acknowledged problem already, I might add, that it's yet again being thrown into the teaching curriculum. And that's where I'm like mind boggled, right? That's where I can't really comprehend it. Because sure, bullying is a thing, and that, bullying is something that we need to deal with. But bullying, this is kind of self-bullying, self-imposed bullying to themselves. A lot of kids. It's not necessarily, apparently, right? I was new to this too. It's not necessarily that other kids are telling them off and saying that, oh, you look a bit weird. Hey, look at Johnny. Johnny look a bit weird, yeah? I mean, come on, guys. Come on, lad. Can we just laugh at him, yeah? It's not necessarily that. It's that perhaps this Johnny kid, yeah? He looks at the other kids and he's like, why do they not have hair and I do? And this kid doesn't necessarily need to voice his opinion about this to other kids and make them bully him, so to say, or make fun of him or whatever. And obviously, they could be fully supportive as well. They could be like, you know what, that's no problem. I know how this works. I've been taught it. Could be very pleasant kids out there as well. I'm not saying that everyone's just a jerk. But this is apparently a problem of self-imposed bullying. As I said, it's kind of rather new to me that there are kids who are feeling that they're kind of they're distancing themselves from the group, and not the group distancing an individual from the group, but rather they distance themselves based on what they look like. And to me, that's ludicrous, because you all probably know, if you follow any of my videos to any extent, you know that I'm often talked about diversity. That I think that diversity is something that is usually misinterpreted. Because most people, when they think about diversity, they think about observed diversity, right? Things that you can actually see. You know, this person dresses a bit differently than that person, or that person looks a bit different than that person. And if we bring all of those together, that means that we have diversity at our company. And sure, to some degree, socially, you know, in society, that's great to have that kind of diversity. However, I would argue that true diversity is intellectual diversity, where we actually go deep and see, well, people could actually look entirely the same. Doesn't really matter, as long as they're coming from different cultures and having different mindsets and having different perspectives, because that would truly brings out diversity as a whole. And I would argue that if this is a problem with kids that is this far gone, right, that it's actually a part of the curriculum for teachers out there. I don't know if it's all over the world or if it's just at my university, right, because he happens to study at this university, one of them at least. But yeah. But that doesn't really bode well for a society as a whole, right? That we have kids that are gonna grow up and already distinguishing themselves. Sure, that's one way of saying it, I guess, but it's not really true to the word and the implication of the word. But that are distancing themselves based on observed diversity, right? And if they do that to this extent, distancing themselves because of, well, I look a bit different, what kind of message does that send when we try to imply diversity at companies? Because if they've been growing up all their life thinking that, oh, you're supposed to look a certain way, you're supposed to do things a certain way, and then someone tries to implement the idea of diversity, though you should look different, these people are probably grown up in a world where they thought that, oh, you shouldn't look different, you should look as much the same as you can be, right? And that will hurt diversity in the long run in society, which is not good. And one can argue as well, by the way, you can flip the coin and say that, well, social media has lots of different pictures, right? They're depicting people looking in very different ways. Sure. One thumbs fresh for that, right? Which is very good for society. But yet again, these kids are getting in contact perhaps with one intensively to just one perspective or one point of view. Perhaps they're looking up a specific type of shoe online, and then there's going to be advertisement from that company or from that shoemaker directly to them on Facebook or Instagram or whatever you have it, based on their current search history, and they're going to be bombarded with this perspective, which is going to be, you know, kids tend to be very easily impressionable, you know, they're getting an impression, they're sticking with something, they're very fanatic. You know, people tend to be very fanatic, at least when they're younger, about a specific ideology or a specific person, you know, this form of mindless just following people. Not that that is not carrying over to adulthood, I can testify to that, right? I mean, economics is in my world. But yeah, there are, you know, just kids, even though social media can present this very diversified view on life and how different people look, a certain kid might be a fanatic follower of one type of person or one type of person's music or one type of person's art or whatever you have it, and then they're just looking at that person and their circle of friends from that perspective and then judging themselves and others based on that. But the underlying message that I want to try to get across here, and the reason for why I'm so confident in even doing this, taking off my shirt and being like, you know what, a potential work position can be opening up, and this video can be circulating, and my future employer could be like, well, this doesn't look good, does it? To future employer, if you happen to see this, no, I can agree that if you do not imply the context and have the context with it, it might sound a bit strange. But what I'm trying to say, yet again, the reason why I'm thinking that is outweighs the practical implication of what I'm doing right now is outweighing the negatives, is that you should be happy about how you look, and you shouldn't be afraid to show that. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to run around and flaunt it just because you should, right? It's just that you shouldn't be afraid of showing off what you look like. Because I was that for a very long time. Now, I do not know if anyone can tell, and probably no one, but I'm missing kind of a muscle in my chest. So like here, yeah, it probably doesn't show because of the lighting or whatever, but I'm missing a muscle here. See, I can like press in my hand here. Anyway, it matters less. The problem is that I wasn't fully telling anyone about that when I figured out that I had it, which was like when I was, I don't know, 14, 15, something like that. And I was really ashamed that I was looking a bit different than everybody else. And that made me very aggravated because I didn't really talk to anyone. So that meant me getting into a lot of trouble about it, both in school and socially with friends and so on and so forth. And all forms of different, just fallouts, right? But what I've learned over the years since then is that you should own who you are, right? I mean, I don't think that anyone would argue against that, but you should own who you are, and you shouldn't be afraid of showing off what you look like, because that's an important part of who you bloody are, isn't it? What you look like. I mean, until the day when you can like transfer your mind into another body or into a cyborg or whatever, you're probably going to be stuck with what you look like. So do the best you can with your body so that you become the most satisfied with it, right? If that's about sitting still all day, if that's going to the gym, if that's working out really hard and very intensely, if that's working out just, a few times a week, just once a week, just, if it's working out never and just eating cake, then do that. If you become more comfortable with how you look like and how you, perceive yourself, then by all means do that. But the underlying message that I'm trying to get across, and rather the explicit message that I'm trying to get across is, please, if any kid watches this, don't be afraid that I'm standing with my shirt off. And second of all, do not be afraid of what you look like. Because everybody has this feeling of being afraid of, getting accepted by others. Maslow's hierarchy of needs or whatever. But you should really own up to what you look like. Because, when it comes down to it, as long as you're happy about what you look like, it doesn't really care what anyone else thinks, right? Yeah, that's kind of my message to people out there. And yet again, this is raw footage, right? So if I was, stumbling on my words, that was probably not to be, offensive to anyone, which I probably was anyway, because this is kind of a controversial way to displaying it, right? But yet again, what I'm trying to say is, be happy about who you are, what you look like, and don't be, I was going to say afraid of that, but don't feel worse about what you look like just because you do not happen to look like someone else. You're your own person. Make up who you are, right? Inspirational, am I right? Anyway, hope it got across. I only meant it as a good thing. You should be happy about who you are, right? Have a nice one, mates. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.